I invite Dr. S. Senthilkumar. Dr. S. Senthilkumar is the head of Department of Emergency and Critical Care at Manian Medical Center, Erode. He graduated from Sri Devraj Medical College, Kolar, and completed his Masters in Emergency Medicine from Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Institute, Chennai. He also has a diploma in Accident and Emergency Medicine from Sri Ramachandra University. He acquired his fellowship in critical care from Australia. He also underwent a special training in toxicology at University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. During his career, he has a credit of over 300 scientific publications and at national and international levels. He is an editor-in-chief for National Journal of Emergency Medicine and editorial member for various emergency, critical care, and toxicology journals. We welcome you, sir, to talk about paracoid poisoning.
Senthil sir, please unmute. Yeah, that's fine.
A very good afternoon. Over the next 15 minutes, I'd like to share on paraquat poisoning. So this is coming as an epidemic. The era of organophosphate is almost over, and we are seeing out new pesticide poisoning like paraquat or aluminum phosphate poisoning we are seeing, out of which the paraquat is very, very important. I'm going to share a little basic details and overcome on the management. Before going in detail, I don't have any relevant financial or material supports to disclose on this topic. So the agenda of my talk is about how to approach a paraquat poison, what are the common challenges we face in the day-to-day clinical practice, and some untold stories and sum up. This will be the agenda for my talk today. The first case is about a 16-year-old boy consumed around 20 to 30 ml of herbicide, which is stored in the house. As previous Dr. Thangavel sir has told, this is also stored in a normal container in his house. And he knows, as a 16-year boy, he knows this is a pesticide and this is not a regular drink. There was some domestic quarrel between his father because he is not getting good grades in his education. He drank. So he was immediately taken to a local hospital where they told it has been taken in the colloquial name as Kalaikolli. So the treating doctor immediately started on atropine, PAM, and oxygen. Okay, and patient was treated there for another 48 hours as he developed bleeding from the oral cavity due to the erosion and difficulty in breathing. And they took an X-ray. X-ray showed a pneumothorax, referred to us for a further management. This is a most common scenario what we regularly face, because in a rural area, any agriculture poison is considered as OPC, and it is always treated like atropine, PAM, and oxygen. So with this background, I move on to a overview about the paraquat. It is a common suicidal agent in Asia, not only in India, in entire Southeast Asia. This is becoming a second common sold pesticide. It is a very highly toxic herbicide. Various categories as a WHO classified. This is highly toxic herbicide. Almost more than 50% of cases goes for a mortality, and it is a fast-acting contact herbicide. So whenever it gets contacts by inhalation or dermal absorption or in the oral cavity injection, it started absorption is very fast. And the important thing which you need to know from this slide is it rapidly deactivates on contact with soil. So in a pre-hospital, if you get a call from a patient saying that, or EMS people saying that they have taken a paraquat, so the immediate advice you need to give is take a soil, non-plastic clay soil. Okay, that will immediately deactivate the absorption, so that the amount which has been taken, the absorption will be reduced. As you well know, the paraquat is a bipyridine compound. So again, the toxicity depends on the amount of ingestion. Okay, if ingestion is more than 40 milligram per kg, then they will die within 1 to 5 days, whatever you do. If it is less than 20 milligram, they produce GI symptoms like erosion, severe gastritis, even hematemesis. They can have 20 to 40. Again, it depends. This is the area where we are going to play. 20 to 40 milligram per kg total body weight if they have taken. If you do an aggressive treatment, then the death can be prevented. Otherwise, the death will be resulted from 5 days to several weeks. Moving on to the toxokinetic, it rapidly absorbed, but it is incompletely absorbed and largely eliminated, unchanged in the urine. So there is a role for hemoperfusion or a charcoal hemoperfusion. If you do, there is a more chance of removal of this compound can be done. But we have tried in many cases, but the results are not as promising as it is being reported in the experimental study. The distribution into the target tissue is by two compartmental model, and mainly it is excreted through the kidney. But at the same time, there is another component called as third component where the lungs gets absorbed. So the excretion and the elimination will be very fast in the case of kidney, whereas it is very slow in the lung. So there is more chance of getting pulmonary toxicity taking this paraquat. The toxodynamics, as already told, whenever it gets absorbed, it rapidly gets reoxidized. So whenever there is a reoxidation goes through the cycle, so it generates the superoxide. So this superoxide goes and damage the mitochondria, and by which the lipid peroxidation goes. Again, the viscous cycle continues going for a mitochondrial damage. On the other hand, it also goes for an oxidation of NADPH molecule as well as the activation of nuclear factor GABA. So these two, again, adding a fuel to fire, it again causes damage of the mitochondria and more amount of pulmonary fibrosis is being initiated. The consumption of this causes a multi-organ involvement. It doesn't only causes a renal failure or pulmonary complication. It causes more multi-system involvement. Okay, if it is a mild dose, a mild toxicity has been there, there is more chance of getting a GI erosion, oral cavity bleeding, and we have seen a patient with perforation, hemoptysis, and even taken for a laparotomy and we have closed it. Then they go for acute tubular necrosis and renal failure. First two are little manageable complication, and if the patient goes for a hepatocellular necrosis, the ALT, AST are elevated in a very higher range and goes for a fulminant hepatic failure. Or immediately, if it is the toxic dose is very high, if the patient has consumed more than 200 milligram per kg body weight, the patient immediately go for a cardiac toxicity. They go for a pulmonary edema, congestive cardiac failure, and then they go for a cardiac arrest. The delayed presentation, there is more chance of developing the pulmonary toxicity because of the slow third compartment model. The elimination from the lung is very slow, so they go for a pneumothorax, ARDS, or pulmonary fibrosis. The risk assessment, again, it depends on the dose. If the patient, we cannot exactly estimate the patient in the amount in the milligram per body weight in the rural area. So what we regularly follow is it's about a mouthful. If it is mouthful, it is more than 50 ml. If it is more than a mouthful, then there is more chance of going for a severe toxicity. If it is less amount, then there is chance of survival is better if you do a correct management. Or consumption along with alcohol, or the patient taking in an empty stomach or a prolonged fasting. Again, this adds more complication and presence of time to the hospital. If they are presenting in early, there is more chance of trying for getting out from the toxicity. We can even use for the extracorporeal therapy can be applied if the patient presents within 3 to 4 hours. This is a paraquat normogram. This is for a institute where we can estimate. Otherwise, it is not going to helpful. But this slide will tell you the importance of the time. If the patient's paraquat level is less than 1 in the 12 hours, then the surveil will be more than 90. If it is more than 5, the surveil will be less than 10%. The clinical features, again, we can categorize them into the based on the amount of the paraquat they consume, or it based on the severity. If it is mild or a subacute poisoning, they have taken only less than 20 to 30 milligram of paraquat per body weight. They will be asymptomatic. Most of the time, they will be having some kind of oral burning sensation, irritation, vomiting, and diarrhea can be there. And some patient will have a renal or hepatic mild elevation will be there. If it is moderate to severe, that is, they are taken more than 30 milligram, but it is less than 50 milligram of paraquat, then immediately we can see vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, mouth and throat ulceration. If it is 1 to 4 days, then we can see the patient comes to us with renal failure, hepatic impairment, hypotension, tachycardia, like that will be there. If it is presenting delayed, imagine that it is 1 to 2 weeks, then the patient will have predominantly pulmonary symptoms. They'll have cough, hemoptysis, having dyspnea, pulmonary fibrosis. CT will clearly shows pulmonary fibrosis deteriorating with the lung function. If it is more than 55 milligram per kg, then it is fulminant. They will produce, as previously I told you, they will produce more of a toxic myocarditis, refractory hypotension. Recently, we had a patient presented with continuous resistant refractory convulsion because of hypoxia, and the death will be occur within a couple of days. Okay, mainly because of cardiogenic shock and multi-organ involvement. So most of the time they will say it is just a herbicide or a weed killer. So we want to know whether it is really a paraquat or if it is glyphosate or any other herbicide. We can do a paraquat levels. If you have a facility, you can estimate the spectrophotography, or you bedside test. We can do a urine analysis. Just take 5 ml of urine and 5 milligram of sodium dithionate. So when you add and mix, you will get a blue-green positive. Color change will be there. Okay, this is a paper which is from China, saying that based on the concentration of the urine level and Apache scoring, they prognosticate the patient, and this is being validated, and they say that this is a more validative and prognostic indicator by which we can prognosticate and tell the patients the survival. And pre-hospital management, as I already told, if the patient calls you, always ask them to take a non-plastic clay soil can be taken, or if it is in EMS people, then you can ask them to give a charcoal, or you can use multani matti. It is commonly available in all fancy stores, which is being used for the face pack. It is called as Fuller's Earth. The absorption is very fast. A small study was done by our paramedics comparing the charcoal, multani matti, and clay, and they found that early administration of multani matti is more superior than charcoal in absorbing the paraquat poison. And you need to do a early gentle decontamination. In case of dermal absorption, we can do wash and change over the cloth, and then we can do a other thing. So the treatment of paraquat comes in 4 important things. One is resuscitation based on the category and the time of presentation. If the patient presents with hypotension, tachycardia, or cardiogenic shock, the resuscitation plays more. Or if the patient comes to you with a renal failure or a pre-renal acute kidney injury, then you have to monitor the fluid and electrolytic imbalance. It has to be corrected. And there is a role for N-acetylcysteine as an antioxidant. So this goes and prevents the mitochondrial damage, and further fibrosis can be prevented. An important thing, we should not give oxygen. Oxygen is considered to be a palliative care. But in case the patient comes to you with an hypoxia, and patients oxygen saturation is less than 80%, then there is no other go. We have to use oxygen, but the oxygen has to be given in a low dose and can be given as a venturi thing. So to reduce the superoxide radical generation. In hospital, we have to do a early charcoal, early decontamination can be done. And if the patients belongs to the category of mild to moderate, then we can try charcoal hemoperfusion, because the distribution is in a two model compartment thing where we can reduce it. And the immunosuppressive therapy is coming out in a bigger way. You can use corticosteroid and cyclophosphamide. Okay, 15 milligram per kg body weight, maximum 1 gram per day, and it has to be diluted in 200 ml of 5% dextrose and has to be given for 3 days. And daily blood count has to be checked, and antibiotic coverage has to be given for that. Other adjuvants, in case of oral erosion, you can give a local anesthetic mouthwash or a spray can be given. If the patient having hemoptysis, active bleeding is there, then we can go and do a endoscopy. And if the patient comes to you with a stridor, or the patient comes to you with hypoxia, then we have to protect the airway and do a other supportive organ treatment as how you do for other diseases. This is a protocol what we follow in our hospital, and we have treated more than 200 patients, and we found that this protocol is very much useful for a patient who is presenting to our hospital within 2 to 4 hours after conception, and moreover the conception is less than 40 milligram per kg body weight. So if the patient comes to you within an hour, you can do a gastric lavage, otherwise no need. Do a activated charcoal or Fuller's mud or clay suspension can be tried along with the sorbitol or magnesium citrate, and early resuscitation to be done, and they will have a severe throat pain. Okay, they will not respond to normal paracetamol. NSAID is contraindicated as they go for a renal failure. So better we can give opioid. If the oxygen PaO2 is less than 40, then we can give oxygen. Otherwise, don't give oxygen, because this aggravate the pulmonary fibrosis. And start with the supportive organ treatment can be given. And if you feel that the patient has taken more than 50, then we can go for a palliative care can be applied here. So we consider the patients who are all consumed within 20 to 40 and they presented within 2 to 4 hours. We go for a plasmapheresis or charcoal hemoperfusion can be done. And the important thing, when you are doing a charcoal hemoperfusion, always watch for the platelet count. There is more chance of going for a spontaneous bleeding. Okay, and to prevent the pulmonary damage, we regularly give cyclophosphamide, methylprednisolone, and in certain cases we also given tried desferoxamine, and otherwise we give antioxidants, vitamin K and NAC, as N-acetylcysteine can be given. So once this has been given for first 24 to 72 hours, once they are settled and they are showing some kind of improvement, then we will switch over to dexamethasone 5 milligram per kg every 6th hourly until the withdrawing the steroid as a tapering therapy. And in case if the patient is going for again hypoxia, other thing, we can repeat this pulse therapy and count. If it is, we have to monitor the WBC count. Now the important thing is a lot of papers are coming with from Taiwan and Indonesia. They are coming lot of using extracorporeal treatment other than charcoal perfusion. They are using resin cartridges. So this is also been used and showing a good improvement. We have tried in 4 patients and we are able to save 2 patients who have taken more than 40 and less than 60 milligram per kg body weight. They presented little earlier, and this help us to save by using this extracorporeal treatment. So this is how the sodium diethionate test, when we are mixing with the urine in the paraquat, the excretion will be there. And this is a serial test which has been done. and the color change we can observe. The important pitfall or the challenges what we regularly handle is, most of the time this patient will be treated with atropine, or they will be started with the P2AM, or they will give a high oxygen concentration. I don't know why they need this, even though the saturation is maintaining, they will start with the oxygen. So this is a very, very important pitfall, and as well as the challenge we regularly come across, because the early start of oxygen will worsen the condition. Even though they have taken little, the fibrosis set little earlier. So try to avoid supplementing the oxygen unless it is mandatory, and don't treat all the pesticide as OPC poisoning. And this is a case which has been considered to be an untold thing. This patient had developed oral ulcer and difficulty in breathing. This patient, when treated 3-4 general practitioner, then general physician, then went to a dermatologist, referred as Corey Stephen Johnson syndrome. As the patient's saturation is dropping, they referred for intensive care support. On further evaluation and other things, we came to know that this is a case of paraquat poison. This paraquat was being mixed with the grapes. Okay, the motive for giving poison is because the person proposed her and she refused the proposal. This is a criminal poisoning, and we also intimated the police, and they have taken necessary action. Unfortunately, this patient had a stomy course in the ICU, went for a ventilator, tracheostomy, then fibrosis, then repeated thing. Now we are able to save her, but unfortunately, she is on home oxygen therapy because it went for almost complete fibrosis. So to sum up, paraquat poisoning is not an uncommon poison. The clinical features and outcome depends on the serum level. So if you are not able to measure the serum, please try to quantify the amount which the patient has consumed. And oxygen should not be used early. In case if you are using oxygen, then early it will be a palliative thing. Immunotherapy looks promising, and we are able to save almost 50% of patients who have been categorized as mild to moderate, and 20% in a severe case we are able to say if the patient comes little early. The extratherapial therapy we have been started exploring and needs larger validation before coming into recommendation. Thanks for the opportunity and patient listen.
Thank you, sir. There is one question from Dr. Angavilu. It appears to be a deadly poison from your presentation. What percentage of patients could you recover?
I couldn't get you, sir.
What percentage of patients could you recover?
Recover, sir?
Recovery rate in your cases, sir. How many cases you were able to save?
Sir, almost 50% we are able to save in mild to moderate patients, sir. In a severe, again, it is disheartening, sir. Only 20% we are able to save. But other to that also, if you see the 6 months case fatality rate, and it is less than 10%.
And is it not banned, sir? Because is it such an essential herbicide or pesticide? Why it is not banned by government?
Sir, actually, when we...
I have not come across a child with this presentation. Fortunately, it looked very deadly when you are trying to present it.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, we have put a public litigation case, sir. And the company people, they came with a conclusion that we have mixed various protective steps have been taken. Like we have mixed emetic agent. So whenever they take, it comes out as a vomiting, and the color, odor, everything we have changed. So there is no chance of getting accidental poison. Even if they are deliberately take, it will come as an emesis. Like that they have told. So our PL was closed, sir.
Is it true, sir? Their explanation is true, or do you agree?
Sir, it is not true, sir. But they are now they have started quoting that it is mixed with the emesis. They are quoted in the container.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your
Thank you, sir.
explanation.
I would like to add to that because that's a pertinent point raised by Dr. Thangavelu as to why paraquat, if it is so deadly, is not banned. Now let us look at pesticides as other chemicals. That is, if you handle them safely, they are perfectly harmless. Paraquat is a very effective herbicide, maybe the most effective herbicide known to man so far. And if you use it in a proper manner, it's actually perfectly harmless. The moment the herbicide reaches the earth, it becomes detoxified instantly because activated charcoal is just like that clay. Once paraquat comes in contact with this clay or soil, it becomes completely harmless. So only because of people who have come to know the deadly effects of paraquat when consumed, they are misusing it and using it for suicidal purposes. We are having such a high mortality rate. Accidental paraquat ingestion among children, again, totally preventable, touched upon already by Dr. Thangavelu. And also accidental poisoning among adults, I must mention, is pretty rare. So paraquat, we should not really be considering banning, but we should highlight the dangers of paraquat, and we should also see to it that measures like, for instance, what has been mentioned by Dr. Senthil Kumar, that is addition of emetic or whatever it is, should be encouraged, by pesticide manufacturers. I know for sure that one pesticide manufacturer, that is Syngenta, which is a very, I think, widespread kind of manufacturing company around the world. It is a multinational. Syngenta uses, in its paraquat formulation, that is gramoxone, something called a stenching agent, which is, an agent that causes a very foul smell. So children, when they come in contact with this particular substance, that is paraquat, they get put off by the terrible smell. So measures like this should be undertaken to make it safer. But paraquat, let me tell you, is a very essential kind of herbicide for a country like India, which depends to such a large extent on agriculture. That is a sad truth.
So I think there's one more question from Dr. Chand Basha. Excellent presentation, sir. Did you see corneal opacities in any patients?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, did you see corneal opacities?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes.
we have seen corneal opacity, and we are even published that case. Actually, we have seen almost 6 patients had a corneal opacity, sir.
Okay. One more question from Dr. Praveen Dixit. Is there any bedside test for it, sir?
Sir, the urine diethionate, sodium diethionate test is a bedside test.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.